Far beyond the borders of Windar and Var, Elaine, Leoth, Songlant, and King Henry must make their separate journeys, following twisting roads which will nevertheless lead them all to one fated moment in time. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Himbar, that will be doing a spoiler-free review of Kate Elliott's Child of Flame. Child of Flame is a 2000 novel by Kate Elliott. The story begins below ground where Ivar and others have fled for shelter after disaster and battle. And then when we catch up to Elaine, he kind of has some relative peace, which is nice. It's well-deserved after the Burning Stone. And this involves a girl named Attica, and this plotline is really the one that shines throughout this book. I feel like Attica was inspired by the real-life Egtved girl from the Norse Bronze Age culture mound burial. She's a new character introduced at the beginning, and this plotline is set in kind of the past Neolithic Bronze Age area. It's not immediately confirmed, but it's immediately obvious. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Elliott was trying to be subtle here and didn't work, but I thought it was fine. I was actually thinking as I started the novel that I wished Elliott would utilize such stuff like Bronze Age Neolithic stuff, and so considering she does, like, immediately, I was very surprised and it was very pleasant. Leah's journey involves the celestial spheres. It's a spiritual journey tangential to the plots already established. It does allow for some much needed character growth, and she seizes the day as well. And Songlan comes into his own as a more rounded character, as he's kind of the main focus on the plot lines we've been following up to this point, while King Henry makes a bid for the imperial crown. And this area is also carried by Rosvita, Hannah, Zacharias, and Anna, which are all okay characters. They're just not really the stars of the show, right? Hugh is sadly still around, right? It's the Circle of Unity thing going on. I guess we're not going to get rid of him at this point. I don't think no. But this book is even longer than the previous hefty volume, and if you listen to my review of that third book, my problem was its length for the most part. Also, just like it seemed like it was a kind of a downhill from the first two books. And while this one doesn't quite reach to the heights of the first two books, it's not. I didn't dislike it as much as the third book. And that being said, there were still some things I liked about the third book. Of course, overall, I enjoyed my time with this. It's just very thick, right? So the plot goes for over a year, which is something many epic fantasies don't do. Just make them world-changing events happen in like a couple days or a week or whatever. So this world is also not just realized with people and factions, but also things like flora and fauna and weather, and even the ever-widening scope where the world just comes into peril, basically. And I mean, so I can appreciate that, and that's something you kind of want to do well in epic fantasy. And I think Elliott honestly doesn't take too much time focusing on it. I think she just takes a lot of time moving her plot along, especially where she's expanding and getting to the point where it's going to culminate in something very large. And as far as I can tell, it's going to be something very large in like the Rune Lord sense. If you ever read the book Worldbinder by David Farland, then I feel like that's where it's going. But there are some bold things on display. There's intricate style and themes and a plot, again, that you get with these often get with these long epic fantasy series. These thick tomes, these bricks. My complaint again would be the length. As always, brevity is the soul of wit, as someone once said. And while some books can be thick, they can also be quick reads, like Sun Eater comes to mind. This is not the case here. This is not a quick read. Also, this is kind of an aside. While I enjoyed this one more because I think Leah's arc in this one is very interesting, and I think Elaine's is very, very interesting and very nice. There is more sexual content in this one. Not as much bad sexual content as you get in the other books, but there's stuff like the tweaking of nipples and breasts like melons, which those lines came up more than I thought they would. It's one thing for them to happen once, but it's another thing. I just don't know. It was unexpected. That's all. Not a very bad thing, just unexpected. Anyways, those are my brief thoughts on book 4. We'll see where 5, 6, and 7 take us. I'll catch you next time.